Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mark from SolarGames. Long time no see. So for the last, I don't know how long, like 5 weeks, 4 weeks, I've been just like literally so busy with HVN, opening HVN, all that stuff, getting cards out, shipped out to people. So that's why mostly I have not made any content for a long time for you guys. But and I have a giant trip coming up too. So at this point, it's like if I don't make anything, I'm gonna have like 2 months with no video. So I figure, look, I owe you guys some cool stuff, so I'm gonna make some videos today. Maybe if I really try, maybe I can like squeeze out 2 or 3 videos, and we'll space them out. So get the lore content going. So yes, just like last season with AMB, my plan right now is to make some more lore video for HVN as well. So today, we're going to start episode 1 of the Abyssal Heaven lore video. All right, guys. Today we're going to talk about I think maybe the most flavorful card of this set that I love probably the most. And it really is like a combination of a couple cards all together that really puts the story together. But this story is centered around the character Zhang Fei. So Zhang Fei, for those of you guys who don't know, is basically one of the tiger generals of Shu, of the wind element, okay? Basically brother or sister, I guess in this case, to Liu Bei, right? And then so they are, they swore their oath together, and then they are going to fight to restore the Han Empire, right? That's the whole idea here. Between Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei, that's their goal. Now, in this process, because they are starting from very meager means, right? They didn't really have a lot, but because Liu Bei is such a generous person who's very honest and filial, all the pious, like the kind of like general good characteristics that Chinese people like kind of respect, garnered a lot of respects wherever he goes or she goes. And then so what happened is that in the province of Jing, where they were like staying for a long time, all the peasants really loved Liu Bei. Now the Cao army, the Wei Cao Cao and the Wei army came and then really is trying to push Liu Bei's like forces away. Now they had to go retreat, and so the whole idea and the whole incident at Changban Bridge happened. So this is why there's a card called Changban Heroic Impasse, right? So this card is a unique domain. It's a Ranger Crossroads. On enter, put a buff counter on a unique ally you control. Allies you control with one or more buff counters on them have ambush and upkeep at the beginning of your recollection phase. If you don't control a unique ally, sacrifice Changban. This card, hands down, is one of the most flavorful cards of this set, period. Because it really depicts a moment, a story that is part of the Sanguo timeline, right? So as I was saying earlier, before I read the card, Liu Bei is retreating, Cao Cao's army is invading, but one of the problems that Liu Bei's army has is that all the peasants were also following Liu Bei. And because the peasants were following Liu Bei, the whole entire retreat was much slower than they expected, so Cao Cao's army is catching up. And in order to buy more time for Liu Bei's army, and in order to basically prevent Cao Cao's army from even invading further, or basically slaughtering the peasants and getting to Liu Bei's army, a great defense was staged at Changban Bridge, okay? So this, if you look at the artwork of this card, there is a single bridge that's kind of like spanning this river. Obviously, Liu Bei's army is trying to get across the bridge, and then Cao Cao's army is right on their heels crossing the bridge. Now, who is going to stand on this bridge to defend against the Cao Cao army, right? Remember, at this point, too, Cao Cao has a much bigger army than Liu Bei's army. So it's one of those things where it's not really advantageous to go fight, so they do want to retreat. Now, Zhang Fei, our hero of this story, is the person to say, I will stand on this bridge by myself to defend against the entire Wei army. This is such a cool story, right? So basically what happens, Liu Bei's army is retreated. Zhang Fei, to buy more time, stood on this bridge to block Cao Cao's army. Now, the whole idea here is that Zhang Fei is going to be the only champion, only hero on this bridge blocking the way of the Cao Cao's army. And that's why on enter, you put a buff counter on a unique ally you control. Because Zhang Fei's standing there, you're going to block the bridge with Zhang Fei, right? And for the upkeep, At the beginning of your recollection phase, right? If you don't control unique ally, sacrifice this Changban. Because if Zhang Fei is off the bridge, the whole blocking doesn't work anymore. So Zhang Fei is there blocking this thing. Now here's the really interesting part. Notice how in the middle there's also this line that says allies you control with one or more buff counters on them have ambush. Why is it ambush? And the reason is because in the story, Kongming had a good idea. Now, one of the challenges, of course, with defending this bridge by herself, Zhang Fei, is that, I mean, it's an entire Wei army, right? Like, you gotta like make it look convincing that maybe there's some shadiness going on, right? So Zhang Fei is standing on this bridge by herself. Kongming says, okay, let's set up an ambush, or what looks to be ambush. They actually didn't even set up an ambush. What they started doing was they just started like having very few soldiers, like kicking dust and everything behind them. So if you look at the even the picture, this is why this card's so good. Look at the picture and look on the left side of the picture. Notice how there's like a bunch of forest. It's a little bit hazy. There's fog going on. That's the idea. There was fog. There was like dust being kicked up intentionally. So it looks very like, it's like super shady, super sus, right? So Cao Cao's army is coming through, and Cao Cao is really well known for being a very suspicious person who suspects everything, suspects that there's, maybe an ambush, whatever. So Cao Cao comes over here, and people want to rush and fight Zhang Fei. But basically they stop. Cao Cao stops everybody and says, hey, this looks shady as hell. This has got to be an ambush. There's no way this one dude is going to stand here and block the whole bridge, right? By himself. So Cao Cao's army is basically like held back by Zhang Fei. And here's a really cool part. If you read Zhang Fei's character, right? So a lot of this didn't quite make sense in Mortal Ambition, for those that don't know the story. But Zhang Fei has vigor, right? But also, at the beginning of your end phase, if Zhang Fei is the only ally you control, put a buff counter on Zhang Fei. Why? Zhang Fei is a character that likes to fight alone, that likes to be the like one-man army type of thing, right? So that's why for Zhang Fei to be on this bridge by themselves, they get a buff counter just being there, like getting stronger. And Zhang Fei is so menacing that on this bridge, apparently part of the story, Zhang Fei let out a huge roar that literally like killed somebody. This is like, obviously this is a romanticized version of the story, but I mean, it's very fun to think about, right? Another card that's part of the story is actually Provoking Stand. So if you look at the card Provoking Stand, look at the artwork, right? You can see Zhang Fei is standing on the bridge, defending against what appears to be troops that are coming towards Zhang Fei. But they're kind of stopped in their track. They're not like in this rushing motion. They're kind of just staying there because they're a little bit afraid. They're afraid of this person, Zhang Fei. If you read the card itself, it says target allies gains taunt until the beginning of your next turn. If that ally is unique, Zhang Fei, draw a card into your memory. So this card is basically saying if Zhang Fei is standing on the bridge, just defending, right? It's going to gain taunt. You can't attack anybody. You have to taunt. You have to hit this ally, right? And because it's Zhang Fei, you're going to get extra value out of it too. And then here's the really, really fun like tagline here, or the flavor text here. How about we talk this over a cup of wine? No, don't say I didn't try to spare you, right? And this is Zhang Fei's full characteristic, very like, gregarious, like, playful, especially in the GA version of Zhang Fei. Very playful, very like, loves wine. She literally has a gourd of wine behind her on her back. So it's kind of like a playful, like, but also very, very confident and strong character, right? To say, hey, don't go towards me. So these three cards, Zhang Fei, right? Changban, Heroic Impasse, Zhang Fei, Spirited Steel, and also Provoking Stand tells the story of Changban. This is a great story, and this is, I think, one of the best represented card of this flavor inside HVN. For bonus today, I have one extra card, one extra little lore tidbit for you all. For bonus today, we're going to talk about the card Sun Ce, Weapons Master, okay? Sun Ce Weapons Master is a unique ally, part of the Sun family. So if you don't know, there are, let's see, one card, of course, in A and B, Mortal Ambition, that was Sun Quan, which is kind of like the ruling leader of the Sun family. Okay, basically like all the fire types people, right? The animal, beast, human people. Okay, so the tamers. Anyway, so that's Sun Quan. Sun Ce is Sun Quan's brother. And in the story of Sanguo, Sun Ce actually died very young as well. So again, like this ally says, on enter, put a durability counter on a target weapon, a warrior weapon you control. Okay, And then warrior weapons you control gets +1. So this card obviously is for weapons, is all about that kind of stuff. Sun Ce is really well known for being, somebody who has a very strong martial prowess. So very, very good at like fighting in general. So it kind of makes sense. But the fun part about this is actually the second part, which is even if the sun goes down, another shall always rise to greet the dawn. It's really interesting. This is actually, it has, I would say this is triple meaning. So I think this flavor text is like amazing. Okay, first of all, the word sun is actually the word Sun in Chinese, right? So Sun is the family name, but when you like write it in English, it's Sun. Okay, so what this is actually saying is, if you read it in the Chinese way, even if the Sun goes down, another shall rise to greet its place, right? To greet the dawn. So what they're saying is basically the Sun family has always been very, very, very strong. Like martial prowess is really good. Sun Jian, by the way, is the father of Sun Ce and Sun Quan. Okay, so that's the another card. But the father died really early. Okay, and Sun Ce, as a young kid, like maybe about 18, had to take over the entire family and become the head of the family. Now, Sun Ce also died very young, and then Sun Quan had to take over the family. So in a triple meaning, on this card, Sun Ce, the sun goes down, could be referencing Sun Jian going down, Sun Ce rising up to take over. It could also reference the fact that Sun Ce died very young and Sun Quan will take over for him, right? And this Sun family will continue on because they're very, resilient, essentially. So I think it's really cool, really flavorful text. Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for me for today. I hope you really enjoyed the lore video. I love making these things. I love the lore of AMB. I think it's just, HVN. I think it's just really, really great. This whole set, the lore is awesome. That's going to do it for me for today. I'm Mark from Solar Games. I'll see you guys next time. Stay classy.